Hey everybody, welcome back to a new video. Today's video I'm going to answer some questions sent to me by one of the viewers. Before I get started, I'd like to mention that if anybody else has further questions about characters, production of the story, of a story, how I go about things, just general uh, author questions or questions about the Seven Blades of Legend, to just send me an email at sevenbladesoflegend, all one word, at yahoo.com. And then I'll be able to check that out and I'll assess what comes in. Okay, so somebody starts off, been a long time viewer of my work. Okay, they've been keeping an eye on. Oh, I'll just read what they said rather than translate it. Keeping an eye on you and glad to hear that your second book is on the way. I'm currently trying to start production of my own story slash comic, as it is an idea I've had for a long time now, and I really want to get it off the ground. Seeing that you've already done this is most inspiring. Thank you. I had some questions about it, although if you don't mind me asking. Certainly not. How did you start when it came to production? Did you design all the characters first, then begin, or did you design characters as they appeared in the time that you needed them? I guess the same can apply to scenery. Okay, well, starting production and things such as that for Seven Blades of Legend and stories that uh, are in production now that I just really can't get into right now. But let's just stick with Seven Blades of Legend. Starting off, I really wanted to get an understand of my core roster of characters. Who really is my, as I classify as like my hero team? Who are my quote unquote villains? And who are my loner characters? Your hero team, these are basically your characters that that are going to go through the trials. They're going to go and fight the wrong or whatever the quest is about the story. They're going to be the ones that you really want everybody to root for. They're your spotlight character. The villains, they're obviously the ones causing the trouble, or in this case the misunderstanding kind of deal. And what I like to classify as a loner character is that wild card or wild card characters that get shifted into the whole mix and really have no investment left or right or wrong. They're just characters that are in the whole jumble of things, that doing their own thing, that are invested in themselves. They're really on the side of or against the heroes and or villains. And then you have your kind of your sideline characters, such as Wade, for instance, uh, from the first book. Wade Smith, he has uh, Amanda, who is his uh, production manager and also helps him with his nightclubs and stuff. And he's got a butler, and he's got also more side characters who just help support him into a more believable character kind of thing. Characters like them, first off, I started with Wade, and then thinking about his character, he's obviously going to have some of his life involvement into the story, even though it's not a necessity. And so you kind of try to think of those venues, and then you just create somebody as needed, and then establish things from there on. Let's see. Did you design the characters as they appear? Character designs, like I was saying, yeah, I did all that, and then as needed, and then you have your random uh, characters that pop in and out. I mean, you're just not gonna have the entire thing mapped out in your head, no matter how often you've been thinking about it. And then you'll have those wild cards, and then you'll either design them or come up with their description and write them out as you do along the way. What got you inspired and kept you going to the end? Well, inspiration. I've always had a huge imagination, and I've been third grade. I was doing a class project, and I found out I really enjoyed storytelling with pictures. And then sixth grade is when I really just started drawing everything to keep, and I've got binders of uh, poorly drawn characters, but I mean they'll need to be redesigned. But characters who were going to be in future stories or books later on. But anime, fiction, just Marvel, DC stuff, video games. I mean, just the whole uh, passion of just storytelling. Really, I just love fantasy and creating interesting characters and tales that really entertain people. And what helped me keep going to the end? Well, it's I hate to give away too much, but the story that I'm gonna tell is uh, not to toot my own horn, but it's so epic. Really, it's really gonna be an awesome story. And then when I think of some of those encounters between characters and those battles and those the story development that gets in there, and just where the adventures take readers and the fans, stuff like that, just really awesome. And man, just honestly, earlier this week, uh, thinking about one of the stories, something came to mind, and I finally had a realization of what my own story in my head is gonna is telling me, because I was curious about a certain aspect, and then once I realized how that end result gets there, it's like, oh, that's so awesome. And I wish I could just tell you about that character and all that involvement and what's going on there already. But I just can't, or there'd be no point in writing the story. Let's see. How did you decide what angle or position to use? Okay, now this is a bit different for me. Seven Blades of Legend is a novel. In the novel, I've drawn the images of the characters as they are introduced. So when I'm introducing a character in the story, I mainly do it like a profile kind of thing. Uh, some of the other ones I'm getting more free with it and giving them different angles and stuff like that. Still trying to keep in mind how you can still notice all of the detail and the personal preferences of that person's clothing and kind of what makes them who they are, kind of deal. In a comic format, however, I would say try to keep in mind your genre and your personal taste. Not every scene's gonna have this dramatic pose kind of deal, and just you know, kind of play with it. Look at it like you would a director or a producer, and just go about that artistically. You don't want every scene to just be complete boring profile, and not every scene needs to be all dramatic poses and it's just gonna be a learning curve really on the most part. Which I mean, to me, it's just I can't really give too much advice other than personal preference and your own learning curve there. Now, when you come into angling in position for uh, like if we're talking about for the book here, uh, my reasoning was I wanted obviously people to know what the book series is, and second, you want to make sure that you've got an eye-catching uh, cover. People are just going to walk by it and they're just like, looks like everything else I've ever read. So I put my main character here in the front, and even though it's the Seven Blades of Legend, it would have just been too jumbled to have Christian and Seth and Rufus and Cain and Wraith and Vincent and all of the other swordsmen uh, right here on the start. So what I decided was I put each of the swords for those swordsmen uh, behind him in a more creative kind of design. One thing that really will catch the eye is, to me, I feel like instinctively people like things right down the line and to be symmetrical. So I made sure that this was a very non-symmetrical layout for these swords. You got your bladeless and then your biggest and the longest and the double and all things like that. Try to keep that in mind. And as for the design of the second book, it's really a lot of consequences that deal with the decisions of the first book and really having to face against Firestarter and his vengeance. And so I got Firestarter and Grunt and their battle positions, and then behind him, kind of like the first book, I've got, instead of the swords, I've got the silhouettes of his summonings and the image of the Veilstone insignia and that darkness. I hope that helped out, by the way. How did you decide? Okay, those are just a few. I hope that I haven't missed you answering these before. Well, I mean, even if I have answered them before, never hurts to go over. And be sure to pick up your copy of Seven Blades of Legend, The Armor of Kimisama. I'll put down a link for the Amazon purchase below, and I'll also provide a link for the fashion design Vita clothing line that I've got going. I'm going to have some more on that way. Book 2, Seven Blades of Legend, Fire Burning, is going to be out for purchase at the end of this year. And remember, if you have any questions about a video, or you have a request for a video, or anything about the production of making the book, your own story, you kind of get into a roadblock about character design or development or anything like that, just feel free to send me an email at sevenbladesoflegend@yahoo.com, and I'll put a link down below for that one as well. And uh, thank you, Seamaster. Thank you very much for the uh, for the questions, and I hope it helped out. And until next time, have a good one, everybody.